right, let's see. All right, thank you, Brian. I will let Kate into the room as well. And one moment before we get started.
Nick, Aaron put in the chat that one is audio and one is visual for her too.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Aaron. So thanks everyone. I'm going to triple check and make sure that I have all the media partners who have RSVP'd. I think I got everyone. On that note, thank you so much everyone for joining us this morning for our
recording in progress.
For our Downtown Engagement and Public Safety Initiative weekly check-in. Obviously, due to interest in the tragic passing of Cora Faith Walker on Friday, March 11th, there is more interest in this case, and we figured this would be an opportunity for Dr. Isom to lay out the facts of the case as we have them in this moment, as our commitment to transparency and making sure that people have the most updated information possible in regards to the inquiry. So as you may have noticed, due to the number of folks we have in the room here today, please raise your hand during the question and answer portion. I will unmute you. I just want to make sure we don't have folks talking over each other. Sir, I am going to ask you to stop sharing your screen. Joe?
Will do.
Yep, stop participant sharing. Thank you. Unless someone else wants to be the star of the presser, please don't share your screen. So like I was saying, individuals, reporters and journalists with questions, please raise your hand or put it in the chat. I will unmute you during the Q&A portion, just to make sure that we can avoid talking over each other.
Nick,
Dr. Isom will start off with a rundown of the facts as we have them, move into downtown crime over the weekend, and then take questions from media partners around basically whatever you want to. Elliot, I know you had a question.
I just wanted to make sure you could see and hear me.
Yes, I can. Well, I can hear you, can't see you.
Okay.
But regardless, I do, in the interest of time, I do want to get started to make sure that we can get on the right track and respect everyone's time. So Dr. Isom, I will turn it over to you. And if anyone unmutes themselves or shares their screen, I will be very vigilant about making sure it stops. So thank you so much, everyone. And Dr. Isom, you're up.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us for our weekly downtown engagement and public safety update. And through DEPSI, we are bringing together law enforcement, business, and community leaders to improve public safety in downtown and activate the neighborhood. Before we go through our incident report from over the weekend, I want to give an update on a sad case which we touched on last week. On Monday, I noted the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department was looking into the circumstances around an individual's death. Per St. Louis Police Department protocol, following the outreach from the medical examiner's office on Friday afternoon, the police department worked to fingerprint the deceased. Through that process, the individual has been officially identified through fingerprints as the former state representative Cora Faith Walker, and her name was added to the 911 calls for activity and incident report. Chief Hayden and I agree a 37-year-old's sudden death is unusual. As such, the St. Louis Police Department began looking into the circumstances around Ms. Walker's tragic death last week. What we know today is that Mrs. Walker stayed at the Lowe's Hotel Thursday night, March 10th. She entered her hotel room around midnight. On the morning of Friday, March 11th, a little before 9 a.m., she left her room and collapsed in the hallway. There was another person in the room that night with Ms. Walker, who left the room at approximately 7 a.m., 2 hours prior to Ms. Walker leaving and collapsing in the hallway. An individual at the hotel encountered her in distress and came to her aid. That individual at the hotel called 911. That call occurred at 8:55 a.m. All initial calls, 911 calls, go through police dispatch. Then they are transferred to EMS or fire, depending on the need. The log of this call was released to reporters on Friday, and in this case, EMS was dispatched. The individual attempted to resuscitate Ms. Walker. Dispatch worker person who was giving her care contacted EMS, and EMS remained on the line to support the individual as she tried to resuscitate Ms. Walker. EMS received the call at 8:59 a.m. Crew was assigned at 9 a.m. St. Louis Fire Department crew was on the scene 4 minutes later at 9:04 a.m. and began to work to stabilize Ms. Walker. An ambulance arrived on the scene at 9:13 a.m. They departed with Ms. Walker at 9:39 a.m. and arrived at SLU Hospital at 9:46 a.m. She passed away at SLU Hospital at 9:58 a.m. All of this information is logged through 911 records. The medical examiner conducted an autopsy. He has given his preliminary findings to the police department and the media. In his official report, he will make a final determination of cause of death. Conducting an inquiry takes time, and in this case, it has been just 1 week since my initial comments regarding an inquiry into the death of Ms. Walker. We will not, in any case, release information until there is a clear understanding of what occurred, official identifications are complete, and privacy concerns are contemplated. Unfortunately, many have jumped to conclusions based on rumors, innuendo, and allegations with no facts to support their reporting. It's a sad commentary for individuals who manufacture controversy out of tragedy. Specifically, the reckless writing from the St. Louis Post-Dispatch editorial over the weekend contains errors that the board has since refused to address and could have answered through reaching out to the St. Louis Police Department. This recklessness speaks either to a deep understanding or misunderstanding of how inquiries are carried out or malice. Regardless, it is an insult to our police, fire, and EMS workers who worked to save Ms. Walker's life and the subsequent inquiry into her death. In the past week, the St. Louis Police Department has reviewed the 911 call, interviewed the Good Samaritan who called and initially gave care to Ms. Walker, interviewed fire and EMS responders, interviewed involved hotel staff, consulted with the medical examiner regarding its preliminary findings, and viewed many hours of hotel video recordings related to the incident to piece together what actually occurred prior to and the morning of Ms. Walker's death. With this information at this time, there is no active local or federal investigation, and we await the medical examiner's final report on the cause of death. I want to again extend my condolences to Ms. Walker's family, friends, and all of those who loved her for her loss. And now I'd like to give more details on the weekend incidents downtown. On Friday night, District 4 received a call for an assault. The victim stated he noticed the above vehicle following him from East St. Louis, Illinois into downtown. He further stated as he was traveling on 4th Street from Shoto, the occupants of the vehicle began shooting at him. When the victim reached Washington, he got caught in traffic and the subject got out of the vehicle and began shooting at him. The victim returned fire. No one was injured during this incident. The 4th District Bureau will conduct a follow-up of this incident, including a canvass for any video that might capture this incident. Also on Friday night, the 3rd and 4th District handled several calls involving what is believed to be the same individual. A party bus was traveling through the downtown area when a subject created a disturbance on the bus. He was escorted from the bus, where he was then on foot in the neighborhood. The subject found his way to City Garden and was confronted by a security officer who asked him to leave the garden. The subject became angry, fired several shots in the air, and ran from the garden. A few minutes later, the subject then approached several subjects who were leaving an establishment at 9th and Clark. The subject approached the victims, again pulled out his pistol and pointed it at the victims. The victims put their hands in the air, and after a brief conversation, the subject ran southbound, again discharging the weapon in the air. Several minutes later, District 4 then received an unrelated call for shots fired at the White Castle at 902 South Broadway. 2 canine officers were responding to that location, and in the eastbound edge of downtown on Shoto at Tucker, when the subject, who was later identified as wanted for these events, ran into the middle of the street, impeding the officer's ability to respond to the White Castle call. The subject then ran to the passenger side of the marked police vehicle and pointed a pistol at the officer. The subject then again started running. An officer in need of aid was broadcast, and the officers from multiple districts responded. The offender was located and taken into custody. He was arrested on multiple charges, including attempting to carjack the officers. On Saturday, officers received a radio assignment for a shooting victim at 1301 Olive. The victim, who is an unhoused person, stated he was shot 8 hours earlier and received a wound to his leg. A second call was received at the Shell station at 721 North Tucker for disturbance involving this individual. The victim was eventually located at 14th and Locust. He was taken to an area hospital for a gunshot wound, and he is currently in stable condition. District detectives are doing what they can to locate a scene of this original incident and accurately get an accurate description of his assailants. Saturday night, the district handled a call for a robbery with a weapon with no weapon at 13th and Washington. Officers responded to the above location and met with the victim, who stated he had been assaulted by an unknown group of suspects. The victim stated that after the assault, the suspects had physically taken his phone out of his pocket. It should be noted that the victim was heavily intoxicated and was unable to recall the majority of the details of the incident. The victim was conveyed to South City Hospital by EMS. Also on Saturday night, an arrest was made for several juveniles breaking into vehicles in the area of 710 North Tucker. Multiple calls were received for a group of juveniles subject to breaking into cars inside the parking garage located at the listed address. The witness, who was a security guard, observed the indicated juveniles going through vehicles inside the parking garage. Witnesses contacted the police department and advised them of the subjects' locations. Officers responded and detained the subjects. The juveniles were taken into custody at the juvenile building and released to their parents. There were 9 vehicles broken into this weekend with 2 weapons stolen. We are currently at 29 UCR homicides. At this time last year, we were at 39 UCR homicides. And in 2020, at this time, we had 29 UCR homicides. Thank you, and I'll take your questions.
Thanks, everyone. So I see a hand raised. Let me see. One moment. I'm going to put us to gallery view. I see Brian Munoz with St. Louis Public Radio. One moment, Brian, let me unmute you. Nope. Also, folks, I'll be doing the unmuting just so so don't worry about it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Some of the questions that we were hoping we get some clarity on, has the city police department identified the other person that was with Miss Walker that night, or I guess the morning of when they found her later on?
Yes.
Okay. And then what kind of work was done to attempt to stabilize her? What does that look like?
Well, I'm not a medical person, but we do know that there was attempts to resuscitate her. I believe that both the Good Samaritan who initially found her was on the line with dispatch. I do believe that there was a defibrillator that was used by that Good Samaritan. And then again, once fire and EMS responded to try to resuscitate her.
For sure. And then my last one right now would be, well, part one, I know you said the medical examiner is working on determining the official cause of death and releasing that report. Do we have any idea what that timeline may look like? I know there's a lot of work that has to be done in files and that kind of thing, but what do we look like for a timeline?
Well, as you know, the medical examiner is an independent agency, and so you'd have to direct those questions to the medical examiner.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Brian. And next we're going to go to Karen from the St. Louis American. Karen, one moment. All right, Karen, good to go.
Hi, good morning. Thank you. Can you give us any more color on the Good Samaritan? Was it a hotel guest? Was it a male? Was it a female? Were they staying on the same floor next door?
Yeah, I don't have that level of detail. We do know that we believe she was a nurse's assistant. I'm not sure whether she was male or female, but we applaud the fact that a citizen who saw someone in distress had enough compassion to help and call to provide that help.
Okay, I'm sorry. You said she, but then you said you didn't know if the person was male or female. So it's not a she. We don't know it's a she, or it is.
Yeah,
a she?
I'm not sure of the sex of the person. Yeah.
Okay. And then there has been some reporting that information was turned over to the DEA. You said there was no federal investigation. Does that mean that the DEA has decided not to do anything?
No, the officer who conducted the inquiry is a St. Louis Police Department detective.
So has the DEA been involved, I guess is my question.
No, the officer is a task force officer for DEA, but he is a St. Louis Metropolitan Police officer.
So the DEA as an agency has not been involved in this case?
No.
Thank you.
As Dr. Isom mentioned, there's no local or there's no active local or federal investigation at this moment. Next up, let me go through. We have quite a few hands up. I'm going, Christine Byers with KSUK. One moment. All right, good to go.
Hi, who is the person who was with Miss Walker at the hotel?
Well, for privacy concerns, we're not going to disclose that person's name. We have interviewed that person. We're comfortable with the circumstances surrounding what happened, but we are not going to disclose that person's name for privacy concerns.
And do you have the results of a preliminary toxicology report, and what do those results show?
We do have a preliminary report, but I would defer to the medical examiner to provide that because it is the medical examiner's responsibility. But we do have it for our investigative purposes, but I would prefer that that comes from the medical examiner.
So you have it, you just don't want to release what it says.
Well, it's basically the same thing that the press has received. There were no signs of physical trauma or injury. And the toxicology report right now is not final, it's inconclusive. So we have to wait the final determination of the medical examiner.
Correct, but is there a preliminary toxicology report and what does it say?
No, so there is no official written preliminary toxicology report.
Was there a preliminary toxicology report done?
As I said, I think you need to ask those questions to the medical examiner. The detective who did the inquiry consulted with the medical examiner and he gave some preliminary findings, but I would defer those questions to the medical examiner.
Okay. And then
Christine, anything else?
yeah, the city councilor's office we filed a sunshine request for some basic information about this call for service and some information that we routinely get. The fire department told us we had to file a sunshine request. Then the city councilor's office told us we had to file the sunshine request with a different entity. What is the reason for the delays in the release of all this information?
Christine, we'll get back to you on that. I know fire's looking into it.
Okay.
Anything else? All right. In that case, I'm just going through my list on my right-hand side. Aaron Heffernan, unmuted. Good for you. Good to go.
St. Louis County Councilman Tim Fitch is calling for the Missouri Highway Patrol to investigate the death. He's claiming that because Mayor Jones has a close friendship with Cora Faith Walker, that there's a conflict of interest. What's your response to that? Do you think that there is a conflict of interest here?
You know, my response is that we've laid out the facts and circumstances. We've done a thorough inquiry into this tragic death, and we stand on the facts that we have presented to the media and the public today.
And also, Aaron, I would also like to flag as well that Councilman Fitch's letter does emphasize that incorrectly state that Mrs. Walker passed away on Thursday evening. So I think that might be a red flag for anyone who's looking into that letter. Any other questions, Aaron?
No.
Thank you. All right. I see Rudy. I'm gonna mute you, Missouri Independent, one moment. Rudy, you're unmuted.
All right. Well, my question is circumstances surrounding the moments when she came out of her hotel room. I just want to make sure that I understand. You say she came out of her hotel room. Was she walking under her own power and then collapsed in the hotel hallway? What were the circumstances by which she exited her hotel room?
Right. As indicated, she walked out of her hotel room and collapsed in the hallway.
So no one was with her. The person in the room was not seeking to in any way help her out of the room or anything like that.
As I indicated, that person left around 7 a.m., 2 hours prior to Ms. Walker leaving the room.
And this is all verified from the video that you have available?
Yes.
To be clear, Rudy, when you say available, the video that has been reviewed. SLMPD notes that they do not have the video in their possession for release.
Okay.
Anything else, Rudy?
Nothing for me.
right, thank you. All right, Lauren, 1 second. Lauren, you're unmuted.
Thank you very much, Dr. Isom. Appreciate the time today. Just to follow up on a question from Christine, at this point, I know it's only been a week, but do you think that looking back, some more information could have been provided to help clarify this, maybe put some of the rumors to rest and give that timeline that you've given? And do you think that the city could have helped prevent this delay in information?
Well, as you can see, we've done a lot of work in a week, and that takes time. Unfortunately, as I indicated, there were a lot of rumors, speculation, and allegations that were really unfortunate that weren't based on any facts at all. You know, I can't control the rumor mill. All I can do is do a investigation, an inquiry with integrity. And I think it's a disservice to all if we provide information before we have a good idea of actually what happened.
Was the mayor present that morning based on the video or witnesses' statements?
No, the mayor was on a cabinet call with all members of the cabinet, including myself, at 9 a.m. in the morning.
And do we know if any of the witnesses indicated, if you can say, whether or not Ms. Walker was feeling well or if they noticed anything out of the ordinary with her?
Yeah, we don't have any information in that regard. As I indicated, she left her room by herself. And the only other individual who was with her prior to that had left approximately 2 hours later, 2 hours prior. So we don't have any information in that regard.
That individual didn't happen to say if he or she had noticed anything going on with her prior to that moment?
Not to my knowledge, no.
I think
Lauren,
that's all my
anything
questions.
else?
No, I think other questions have been asked already. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lauren. And then Maria, I see you in the chat. You can't raise your hand. I understand that. 1 second. Maria, you are good to go. Unmute.
Thank you, Nick. Dr. Isom, you said that the police department conducted the investigation, but you said that it's now closed along with there was never a DEA investigation. What does your preliminary report show from the St. Louis Police Department?
Well, Maria, I laid out everything that we know at this point in time. You know, and the only thing that is still open is the final cause of death and any toxicology report that comes from that. We believe that we have looked at all the circumstances right now, and there is no active investigation at this point. And we await the final toxicology and the final autopsy report.
You mentioned the fact that you and Chief Hayden both think that this is unusual to see a presumably a healthy young 37-year-old woman die. Do you think there's anything suspicious about this, or Chief Hayden?
Yeah. So there's a difference between unusual and suspicious. At the time of the call, there was really no cause for suspicion. Of course, there were a lot of rumors floating around. We felt that it was our duty to make sure that we look into it and make sure there was no validity to the rumors. As I've laid out the timeline and what we've done, there is nothing that's come up that would raise any suspicion at this point.
Thanks, Dr. Isom.
Thank you, Maria. All right, so Christine, I see your hand is raised again. I'm gonna try to hop and hit people who we have not hit already. So next up is Kate Grumpke with St. Louis Public Radio. Kate, you are unmuted.
Thanks. Are you all able to hear me? I've never Zoomed from this computer before.
We can hear you.
Okay, great. Thanks so much for doing this. I really appreciate the opportunity to ask some questions. So you said that there's no active local or federal investigation. Could you just explain, what does that mean? Does that mean that this is not a certain type of investigation inherently?
What that means is that we've looked into, and as I've laid out as specifically as I can, all the information we know, the timeline that we have, and right now, what we believe is that we have covered all the bases. There's no active investigation going on, and we await the toxicology report. We looked into the circumstances of Ms. Faith Walker's death, and we have no information that raises any suspicions beyond it being a tragic death on the day that this occurred. So we still have one final piece of information that we need, and that is the toxicology report and the final report of the medical examiner.
Got it. And then one follow-up, you said that you've interviewed the person that was with her that morning and will not disclose that person's name. Does that mean that this person is not a suspect?
Wasn't a suspect from the beginning and is not a suspect now.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Gabriella. Okay, so thank you, Gabriella, for the clarity around your questions. So I will save you for the end so we can get through the next round. So one second, let me see. Elliot, I know you had your hand up. Elliot, do you still have any outstanding questions before I move on to folks who have already asked? All right, seeing none. Karen, I'm going to unmute you for your next question. Karen, you're unmuted.
Hi, it looked like Elliot was trying to ask a question, but he seemed to be muted, so I don't want to, his mouth is moving, so I don't know if he's talking to us or not.
All right, thank you. One moment. I will make sure that Elliot can unmute. Hey, Elliot, you're unmuted.
Yeah, now I'm lost here. Maybe I hit something and hit the wrong thing. Okay.
It's okay, Elliot. We can hear you. So if you have any questions. feel
Okay.
free.
Can you see me at all?
Yes, we can see you.
Okay, well then I'll ask the question. Director Isom, and let me just be clear. You don't have any reason to believe at this point that there was any wrongdoing in the death of Cora Faith Walker. Is that true?
That's true.
Could you, in the toxicology report, you're waiting for that to come out. At this point in time, just for clarification, there is no DEA investigation, DEA as an agency. There's no DEA investigation at this point. Is that true?
That's true.
Could you go through, and I had trouble copying it down, the timeline once again?
Elliot, we have the timeline all copied down. I will email you the timeline after this.
Okay, well, that's pretty much covers it for me.
Thank you, Elliot. All right,
Thanks.
Karen, what's up?
Without giving away privacy, the person that was in the room earlier with Ms. Walker, they had come into the room together when she came in the night before.
Yes.
Okay. And, okay, all right, that helps. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. And then the, let me see. So I see Christine, one moment. You were next, and then Maria. So everyone, Dr. Isom will have to hop in a few. So we're gonna try to get as many questions as we can to make sure we're as clear and transparent as possible. Christine, one moment. All right, you're unmuted. You're next.
Hi, so my other question is, at what point will this become a police investigation, Dr. Isom?
Yeah, I'm not sure what that means. I've laid out the timeline for you. I've given you all the information that we have right now. And so we await the toxicology report, final report, and the medical examiner's report. That is the final piece. At this point in time, there is no active investigation. And so that is the final piece. And then that will be the conclusion of this inquiry into her death. I think the medical examiner's report will be the final piece of information where we can definitively say what happened. But we know the actual circumstances. So we know what happened from midnight, the time Ms. Faith Walker entered the hotel room, until the time she walked out into the hallway and collapsed. So you have the details of what happened.
But is there any point in time, depending on the medical examiner's report, that this could become a police investigation, depending on what that final report says?
Well, I don't want to speculate on what that report says, but we have done all the pre-work to really make a determination of what that will actually mean when we get that final report. But I think we've done everything absent knowing the actual cause of death that should have done and you would expect a police department to do in a circumstance. And I would even say more than what is generally expected in a case like this.
All right, Christine, any other questions?
Hey, Nick, when are we going to get that timeline? How soon can that be sent?
Elliot, as soon as we're done fielding questions on this call.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Elliot. All right, again, like I said, I'm going to try to go to people who have not been able to ask any questions. Joe, St. Louis Post-Dispatch, I see you can't raise your hand. Let me see. I will unmute you. You can ask your question.
All right, thank you. If you can hear me, I was not trying to share my screen except with the people here, and that didn't work either. So my question starts, could you explain the relation of, you said it was a city police officer working with a federal task force. Was that correct?
Right.
Who is that task force with? That's a task force including what federal agencies?
Yeah, I did indicate he is a St. Louis police detective who is a DEA task force member.
Was there any other information that that city police officer collected in his role as a city police officer working with the DEA?
Well, I've given you the details of that officer's investigation. So I've laid out the timeline, the information that that detective collected. And so you have the details of that detective's inquiry.
So with that task force, he reports that information to the task force?
He reported that information to the St. Louis Police Department.
And did not share it with the task force that he's assigned to?
Well, as I indicated, there is no federal investigation. He shared that information with the St. Louis Police Department.
And no one else?
Well, I mean, I can't say specifically no one else, but it is a St. Louis Police Department investigation with a DEA task force officer.
Did the St. Louis Police Department or that detective enter the room that Ms. Walker stayed in or collect any evidence from that room?
No evidence was collected from the room.
Right.
When you say that there's no active, what you're saying is it's pending? Pending the release of the autopsy and toxicology report?
Yeah, so I mean, that's the final piece of information for us to close the loop on all of this, is to get the medical examiner's final report and the toxicology.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Joe. All right, we're gonna have to go real quick, folks. Brian, real quick from Public Radio, follow-up question. Oh, sorry, Brian. 1 second. Let me unmute you. Let me unmute you. There we go.
Thank you, Dr. Isom, and thank you again for fielding all of our questions. I just want to clarify on my end, the department currently does not believe there was foul play in this case.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Rudy, very brief follow-up. What's up?
Yeah, I wanted to make sure, you said that the video was not retained. Was it obtained by subpoena and then returned? Has it been, has the hotel been told to preserve the video for any future use?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not privy to the exact details of that. I do know we got a search warrant to view the video. So I'm, of course, well aware that the video was reviewed by the police department. Who has possession and where it is at this point in time, I don't have that information for you.
Okay. Thanks.
And then let me see. I'm trying to see. I also see Maria. You have a follow-up question. Maria, ask your question.
I do. Dr. Isom, have you subpoenaed anybody in this case? And with your years of experience, what's your estimation of this case?
Well, you know, I want to wait until we really get the autopsy to make a final determination, but I've laid out the timeline for you. I've laid out all that we know right now. There's nothing within the information that I've laid out to you, or in my own experience, that I see as suspicious or you know, anything that would lead us to do further investigation. So we await the toxicology report and the final medical examiner's report.
And has anyone been subpoenaed?
No, everyone we spoke with voluntarily gave up information. The only subpoena we needed was for the video.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. And then I see Lauren has a follow-up question. Lauren?
Yes, just to clarify then, is this a closed case for sunshine record purposes?
Well, I think we, as I continue to indicate, we do have a final piece, and I want to make sure that we get the medical examiner's report and the toxicology. But right now, there is no active investigation. I think we have covered all potential leads and information to give us a clear picture of what happened, not only the day of Ms. Faith Walker's passing, but many hours before that. And so I think we've pieced together all the information we need and the timeline, the final thing that we need so we can close this is the cause of death.
So that video, should it be in your possession, would that be released to the public, given that it's not an active investigation?
Yeah, well, I don't know if we would release that at this point in time. And I'm just saying I'm not sure of that question right now, Lauren. So I can't definitively say whether we would release it or not at this point in time.
And then also really quickly, is it protocol for PD not to run on a person down call? And do you think that evidence could have been collected had police responded to the hotel that day?
Yeah, well, it's pretty common when there is, and even in this case, that is purely a medical emergency. And from what all indications at the time and all indications right now, that's what occurred. Police department does not always respond to a medical issue. And so I think it was appropriate. In this case, of course, initially no one knew who this person was, although we know today in hindsight. And as I said, the rumors and allegations that swirled, it was our duty to look into it and investigate it further.
Was the room in her name, that other individual's name, or someone else's name?
The other individual's name.
Okay. And lastly, just to clarify, you do not believe that the department has a conflict of interest in this case? And would you consider asking an independent agency to just review it as well?
The police department absolutely has no conflict of interest. I believe in the integrity of Police Chief Hayden. I believe in the integrity of Chief Jinkerson. I believe in the integrity of the EMS fire people who responded, the Good Samaritan who helped, and also the police detective who conducted this inquiry. So I'm very satisfied with the work that has been done by all those different entities.
All right, thank you, Lauren. And we're gonna have to move on. I want to make sure that Gabriella has her ability to ask her question, because I know it is more topical to the depths of the downtown initiative. Gabriella, I'm unmuting you for your question.
Thank you so much for taking the time, and I appreciate you letting me ask questions. Regarding the Friday incident that involved the carjacking the police officers, we found out that the circuit attorney's office is not filing any charges against the individual involved in the carjacking. Can you respond to that? Is that unusual? Is that something that would otherwise be done? Why are we not pursuing this further?
Yeah, I haven't had time to speak with the circuit attorney about the reasons why those charges were not pursued. So you would have to ask the circuit attorney's office. My speculation is that there's some additional work that they want done. And hopefully in the future, those charges will be pursued.
And regarding just weekend crime in general, it seems to, and just the perception is that we've seen a lot more in the last few weeks. And so I wanted to ask you, is there, any cause for concern about seeing an uptick in downtown crime, and what would be the response to that? Or is there anything that is being done behind the scenes to kind of change that perception, or at least make the downtown feel safer?
Right. We're working on our downtown plan, which is going into effect this week after St. Patrick's Day, because we had a lot of resources and attention directed there. But several of these incidents we have closed. As we indicated, we took some juveniles in custody for breaking into cars. The individual you just reported was arrested by the police. And so I believe we're in the places that we need to be, but we're continuously evaluating what we need to do and how we need to deploy people. And as we move into the summer, we'll continue to make adjustments.
And when you mean by a downtown plan, what exactly does that look like? And does that change at all in the summer? Because sometimes the perception is that as more people come into the city, summertime, that think crime could potentially pick up.
Yeah, it does. And there are several different units that we'll be using for our downtown sort of engagement plan on the law enforcement side, but also suggest that we will be doing our summer violence detail in the neighborhoods as well. So it's not just downtown, it's citywide that we're working on our plans for this summer.
All right, everyone. So it looks like I know we have about 1 minute before we are going to close. Thank you so much, everyone, for your time. I know I see Karen. I see your hand raised. I think we've had 2 follow-ups, Rudy, and then Karen, very, very briefly.
I don't have anything more.
All right,
sorry.
cool. Well, Rudy, I will lower your hand then. 1 moment. All right, Karen, looks like you're gonna be closing us out.
Okay, thank you. Does the task force that the detective is on have a name? Is it called something other than just DEA task force?
That is the name.
That is the name. DEA task force is the name. As far as how I should describe the city police department's investigation, is there something other than not active? Is it paused? Is it on hold? What do I call it?
I would just say it's awaiting the final piece of information, which is the toxicology report and the medical examiner's report.
And
It is not closed. It is not closed.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's completely closed because we have to get the toxicology report and the medical examiner's report.
And as such, and like as Dr. Isom again emphasized, there is no active local or federal investigation. And Lauren, I see your hand. I see on an unrelated matter. Lauren, then we absolutely have to close. One more question.
Yes, Director Isom, just wanted to see if you could address, I know that the police and fire unions are planning a press conference today regarding some concerns. Have they briefed you on those concerns? And if so, can you provide any response to that?
Lauren, will be that's a question best posed to the Department of Personnel. So I'd recommend reaching out to the Department of Personnel. Thank you for your question. And now everyone, we do have to break. Thank you so much for all of your questions. I have received some outreach in regards to some individuals who